and I'm sure that Reverend Patricia will be telling us more about him. So welcome, welcome.
Lots of clapping going on today. That's a good thing. Lots of joy. I love it. Actually, Emmet Fox is a New Thought teacher, New Thought minister, and I'm really excited to be exploring some of these other New Thought teachers. You know, I love Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and we are here in a Unity Church because of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And one of the things that is so powerful about the Unity teachings is our understanding of those 5 principles, right? That there's only one presence and one power, God the good, that God is omnipotent, and that presence of the divine is in each one of us, that we are an aspect of the divine. We are an individualized expression of the divine, and that we have the capacity through our thought and feeling nature to create our world. It's our consciousness that creates our world. That's number 3, right? And what's number 4? What's number 4? It's in here. Prayer and meditation. These are our tools, our spiritual toolkit. And the golden key is one of the tools. You need keys sometimes for your tool chest, right? Well, one of the things I want to really focus on over the next, I don't know, let's say couple months, is some of these tools and practices that we can use to really amplify what we know about the Unity teachings. Because number 5 is what? We can know all these things in our head, but if we don't practice them, if we're not living them, why bother? You know, it's like, it's where the rubber meets the road. Let's use these principles. Let's use these tools. So the golden key is not something that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore created. It's something that was created by a divine science minister. His name was Emmet Fox, and he came over in the US in the 30s. So the Fillmores knew him, but he was not really part of their circle. If you think about Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, they were really Midwesterners. They were part of the Midwest. They'd lived in Texas for a while, but they were really based in the Kansas City area, which is where Unity Village is right now. They bought land there and really built the movement of Unity in the Midwest. Divine science and some of the main teachers of New Thought were based in New York. We think of E.B. Weeks, that was the man who really inspired Myrtle Fillmore. Myrtle went to his lecture, and what did she hear? She heard, "I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness." E.B. Weeks was one of those East Coast ministers, and Emmet Fox as well was one of the ministers, and he spoke in the Hippodrome, and apparently he was very charismatic, in addition to the fact that he wrote 60 pamphlets, because the Golden Key is a little tiny pamphlet, but he was prolific. He talked about the idea that we can change our lives. And people even came to know him as Alter Your Life Fox, because he had a whole program on alter your life. And he believed that we had the capacity to change what was going on in our life. I mean, that's what principle number 3, right? What we think about comes about. Thoughts and mind produce after their kind. So the golden key is a very, very simple teaching on prayer, which is what part of our number 4, prayer and meditation. So I wanted to dive a little bit more deeply into the golden key, but before I do, I want to actually read to you a little bit from the beginning of the golden key. It's a little pamphlet, and you can order it online. You could find it, just Lord Google has it. You know, it's a couple pages long, and that's it. But I just want to read to you from the beginning, and then we're gonna explore and dive a little bit more deeply into this. So this is from Emmet Fox. Prayer will enable you sooner or later to get yourself or anyone else out of any difficulty on the face of the earth. That's a pretty bold statement. Prayer. It is the golden key to harmony and happiness. To those who have no acquaintance with the mightiest power in existence, this may seem to be a rash claim, but it needs only a fair trial to prove that without a shadow of a doubt, it is a just one. You need take no one's word for it, and you should not. Simply try it for yourself and see. God is omnipotent, and man in his image and likeness has dominion over all things. This is the very inspired teaching, and it is intended to be taken literally. Man, translate man, woman. Man means every man. And so the ability to draw on this power is not the special prerogative of the mystic or the saint, as is so often supposed, or even the highly trained practitioner. Whoever you are, wherever you may be, the golden key to harmony is in your hand now. This is because in scientific prayer, it is God who works and not you. And so your particular limitations or weaknesses are of no account in the process. You are only the channel through which the divine action takes place. And your treatment will really be just getting yourself out of the way. Hear that again. Your treatment will simply be getting yourself out of the way. Beginners often get startling results at the first time of trying, for all that is absolutely essential is to have an open mind and sufficient faith to try the experiment. Apart from that, you may hold any view on religion or none. As far as the actual method of working, like all fundamental things, it is simplicity itself. All that you have to do is this: stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Hear that again. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. This is the complete rule, and if only you will do this, the trouble, whatever it is, will presently disappear. It makes no difference what kind of trouble it is. It may be a big thing or a little thing. It may be a concern of health or finance. It could be a lawsuit, a quarrel, an accident, or anything else conceivable. But whatever it is, just stop thinking about it and think of God instead. That's all you have to do. Philip's eyes are rolling. Stop thinking about it and think of God instead. So simple. What a simple rule, right? Got that rule down? Stop thinking about it and think of God instead. Simple, but not easy, eh? Yeah. So, a lot of people have tried this in a lot of different situations and come up with really excellent results. And, if you think about Jesus in the Bible, he had experiences of this with his disciples. Think about it when they were in the boat and the sea's rocking and Jesus is asleep in the back, right? And the disciples are freaking out. They wake him up. They're like, how can you sleep? Aren't you worried about us? We're going to drown. Jesus just says, be quiet. And the sea's calm. And they go about their floating down the sea because he's focused on the presence and power that he holds within him, the presence of God within him, moving away from the fear and the craziness. How often are we like that in our lives? Something comes up in our minds and we chew and we chew. I mean, I'm often hearing people saying, oh, it kept me up all night. What's that all about? That's not giving it over to God, right? That's like thinking and making it bigger in a sense. We take a problem and instead of finding the solution, we create more problems, don't we? Just by the activity of our mind and the way we can imagine terrible scenarios. So Emmet Fox's golden key, the golden key is very, very simple. Stop thinking about your problem, no matter what it is, and think about God. So it's pretty important if we're going to be thinking about God, that we have an idea about what is God. God is not so much a who, but what is God? What is the nature of God that he's directing us to think about? So I did a little more digging because I wanted to understand a little bit more about how Emmet Fox understood the nature of God. We understand Unity's teaching on the 12 powers and understand that the Unity teachings on the 12 powers are about powers within each one of us. Unity's teachings are not saying the 12 powers are this is God's capacity. It's how the capacity of God, the attributes of God, the aspects of God's shows up in each one of us as faith and imagination, as zeal and power, as understanding and will, as love and wisdom, as divine order and strength, and as the capacity of saying yes to life or no, releasing. Those are capacities that we have that Charles Fillmore has identified. And uniquely, those are powerful teachings that Unity has given us. But Emmet Fox had an understanding that he wrote about, and he called it the 7 aspects of God. And I've given you all each a little card so that you could take this home, because it's not something that we in Unity talk about in this kind of way, but I thought it was a very interesting understanding, and I'd like to just explore it a little bit with us. Basically, and you don't need to get your card out now. I'm going to talk about it, but you'll have it, you'll have it to take home. And on the back, there are a few statements that you can use. Statements which are a little bit different than affirmation. An affirmation is talking about yourself, right? I am healthy. I am vitally alive. I am powerful. I make great decisions. These statements are about God. God is blessing me now. God is healing me now. It's a different way of focusing our attention when we're moving away from whatever an issue might be in our life and literally focusing on God. So Emmet Fox, in this, again, another pamphlet, he was big on pamphlets, short, to the point. He wrote about what he called the 7 aspects of God. And the first aspect of God that he talked about is God is life. God is life, the energy of life. He said the highest form of life is the capacity of joy. God is life. And when we carry life, we carry joy. What he said was, if we're dealing with a situation in our life that it has a healing need, say we have a sickness and we have a healing need, we should affirm God as life, because that's the life of the body that we're carrying. So that's one of the pieces that his teaching is kind of a helpful tool for us to say, okay, if I'm dealing with an illness in my body, I want to affirm life. I want to affirm God as life and the wholeness of the body. The next aspect of God that he talks about is God as truth. And it was interesting when I was reading about this, he said, whenever you need to do some research, you're trying to find some information, you want to affirm God as truth. You affirm God as truth, and that affirmation and knowing that part of the nature of God is truth will help you to be guided to know where to find whatever it is you need to find. The truth of whatever a particular situation is. God is truth. So the first aspect, he said, is God is life. The second is God is truth. The third aspect, he says, is God is love. And we say that almost like that's the only aspect of what God is God is love, this harmonizing aspect of connecting us all in this powerful matrix and presence. One of the things that Emmet Fox reminds us is that the nature of these aspects of God are not limited in any way. In other words, they combine, life and love combine. And when we think about the teachings of Charles Fillmore on the 12 powers, we can see how the quality of life and the quality of love combine in us to find the nature of love that we use in our lives in relationships, a sense of joy, a sense of harmonious connection. The fourth aspect that he talks about is the aspect of soul. And this is an interesting one, saying God is soul. As I was trying to understand this a little bit more, he says it's soul with a capital S. And what he talks about is that God has the capacity to individualize as you, as me, as a rock, as a tree, as an animal. So there's this capacity and an aspect of the divine presence that we know as God, or however you know it, divine, however you call it, that has the capacity to individualize, and that is soul. So each one of us, when we talk about our I am presence or the Christ presence within us, we are activating that soul quality of God. He says whenever we need to really, really embrace more of who we are. Have you had those situations where you're not feeling completely up to the task that you've been given in your life? Somebody has asked you to do something and you're just not feeling that you have that all that you need to do it. This is when going to God, putting aside whatever the problem might be, the situation, or even the request somebody's made of you, going to the nature of God as soul, knowing that that I am presence indwells each one of us, is a powerful thing for us to do. The next piece that he talks about is God is spirit. And how often do we kind of substitute spirit for God? Do people do that sometimes? You talk about spirit and God being synonymous. He distinguishes this in a really, for me, it was really a beautiful way that he talked about it. He said, when you find yourself in a situation where what's going on in the material world seems to be all that you can understand and see and know, turn your mind to see whatever that situation is as a spiritual idea, even things as spiritual idea. So seeing a situation in your life as a spiritual idea, what might be a situation that you might have that you can't seem to get out of, that you're missing the spiritual idea of that situation? Feeling bad about yourself. That would be a place for you to go to soul and feel the I am presence of yourself. God is soul. The soul of God individuates through me, and I am whole and healthy and in that perfection, harmony, loving presence of the divine. The spiritual nature of who you are is a divine being, that you don't inherit any of these qualities of error. We might make mistakes, but that's not our nature in any way. The final thing after looking at the spiritual idea of something, seeing the spiritual idea of it, is to understand the changelessness of the divine, of God presence. That God is literally principle, and principle never changes. And this is something that is kind of hard for us to really hold on to in our lives, because life feels like it's changing all the time. And yet, when we see in the realm that there is no time and space, how many people have had a situation where you were upset at a decision that was made, and 3 months later you went, wow, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me? Because we get attached. We get attached to the outer. We get attached to the situation. Again, it's part of that idea of understanding that there's a spiritual realm that's underneath and above and around all the things that happen to us in our physical bodies. So it's a powerful, powerful understanding. And I've been kind of playing with this all week since I first decided to explore the golden key. Because I think so often when we go into prayer, we find ourselves chewing about the problem or trying to figure out a solution to the problem instead of going to the source, which is God. And the thing about the golden key, and especially having these idea of these 7 aspects of God, is it simplifies all that energy to just simply say, oh, I've got to make a decision over here. So let's see, what do I need to do? I think I need to have this power of the intelligence of the divine. I need the intelligence of the divine here. So I'm going to focus my energy on God as divine intelligence. If I'm having an issue in a relationship, I had a friend who was having some real challenges with her partner, and she was complaining a lot. I don't know if anybody ever has a friend like that, or maybe you're the friend, maybe you're the friend, and the partner's not doing things the way you would like the partner to do things. And so you get all this attention over here on what you don't want, which unity teaching number 3, what are you going to get? More of what you don't want when you're focusing on that. So instead of focusing on what you don't want, and in terms of this particular friend, we had a conversation. It was like, well, I totally really love this person. I married this person. I just had so much joy, and over so many years, and just over time, things seems to have kind of drifted away. And the way I felt, that love I felt, it doesn't feel the same anymore. We talked about, well, what are the things that you do love? And she started focusing on that instead of focusing on the things that were not working, that were causing her distress, just turning the attention away from the problem and focusing on love, which is a nature of God, and it's also the nature of that divine, beautiful being over there that's causing distress, because the distress is not there. The distress is in here, right? Same thing when we're dealing with physical challenges, and when we have a physical challenge, it's really easy to get caught up in the pain because of the pain of a physical challenge, get caught up in what's wrong with the body, why it's not working, why we can't do the things that we used to do. I mean, I know this from my experience of having that car accident in December. I was spending far too much energy talking about having no balance. My kids would call me and they'd ask me, how's your balance, Mom? And it was great to talk to my son this week. I said, I don't want to talk about my balance anymore. My balance is great. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to India, but when we have those situations in our life, we can tend to focus on the problem instead of focusing on in that case, it was life. I'm focusing on the life within me. It's vitally alive and it's actively working all the time. So what would it be for you in your life right now? Is there some area in your life where you have an issue, a challenge? Just kind of take a moment. Let's turn the lights out and we'll just take a look and see what this might be. So just take a moment and close your eyes and feel into your life, knowing that you are an exquisite divine creation of the one presence and one power, that God is blessing you now, God is prospering you, and God is in you, that you are filled with the holy presence of God, that God is forever guiding you and directing you and healing you. The presence and power of God within you is mighty and strong. And as you breathe into this deep and powerful knowing, take a moment and just allow the thought of some issue that you may have in your life to just come into consciousness for a moment, not building your tent there, but simply walking by and seeing what's there, situation. And in this moment, be willing to turn away from that situation and tune into the presence of God as life. If there's a need for healing of sickness or a sense of depression, tune in to God as truth. If you need more guidance and information to make a decision, tune into God as love, to let go of any fear, any sense that you're out of harmony in your relationships. Tune in to God as intelligence, knowing that all ideas work for a common good. and that you have all that you need to make right choices. Tune in to God as soul, knowing that the living Christ consciousness is your divine nature. And you can claim your I am in any moment as a divine child of God. Tune in as God as spirit. And allow the wisdom of God to show you the spiritual idea, the spiritual nature of whatever it is that may be a difficulty or a challenge in your life. Finally, tune in as God as principle, unchanging, ever present as a presence for us, moving through us and as us in the world. Take a moment in the stillness. Feel into the golden key as you turn away from any difficulties, stop thinking about it, and tune into the focus, attention, and presence of God. And don't struggle with this. If your mind comes back and moves to the issue or the problem, simply return once again to focus on the presence of God. God as life, as truth, God as love, as intelligence, God as the soul and spirit and principle of life. Remember, whenever you have a challenge or a difficulty that you are facing in your life, you can turn in prayer by using the golden key. The golden key to harmony is in your hand, in your heart, and in your consciousness. Knowing that it is God who does the work and not you, that you are a channel for the presence and the power of God. So stop thinking about whatever difficulty may be arising in your life. Whatever it is, think about God instead. And taking a deep breath and offering gratitude to this simple and powerful lesson. I say, thank you, God. And so it is. And gently bring in your awareness back into your physical body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes.